What's up?
Hey, everybody.
Oh,
welcome,
hi,
welcome.
everybody.
I'm alive.
Didn't see you
I'm
there,
alive.
Oh, yeah.
Jamie, can you turn your mic up a
Jamie's
little
alive.
bit?
Yes. How's that?
You're watching Bobby's Cryptid Corner. It's Tuesday night. Have we made the announcement officially? We're going every other Tuesday. If we haven't made
No,
that
I don't think we've said it, but yeah,
All right.
we'll say it now.
Okay.
Yeah, cryptids are running a little slim, and we're all very tied up in a lot of things. And we want to bring more quality and less quantity. So we're going to be doing every other Tuesday from here on out. That's why you probably didn't see us last week. So that's what's going on with Bobby's Cryptid Corner. If you can't get enough, though, if you need more, there's 200 backlogged episodes on the YouTube channel.
For reals. There's so many.
I'm not going to. I was thinking about that today. I was like, are we ever going to we're bound to repeat one at some point, and not even realize it.
Probably, in all honesty.
Bree,
no, remember them all.
We do have.
we try. We keep a list. We try.
Let's go around the table here. My name's Bobby of the Cryptid Corner. Right above me is
Jamie. Hi. I'm alive.
Okay.
And sorry, I was reading a comment as you said that.
Jamie, hi.
I'm Jamie. My back still hurts.
Are you on Vicodin right now?
No, I fucking wish. I don't
You
go to
sound like you
doctors.
are.
I don't go to doctors. I smoke a lot of weed.
Yes.
I can't believe you managed to do the last show that you were on with the back pain.
I did the whole show with it.
realize
So if anyone doesn't know, last show I leaned forward to say something into the microphone and fucked my back up. I did something to my fucking sciatica nerve. I don't know what, but I literally had to lay in bed for 10 days before I can get up and move and do anything, completely laying flat. I could not turn over. I couldn't peeing was hard. All of it sucked. The only thing I could do was
the woes of an aging YouTuber.
Yeah.
You had a work injury. Streaming
work injury. So there it is. Yep. But I'm alive and I'm here. I got a bunch of pillows behind me. I'm vibing. Pain level 10, but drug free.
Right on.
Excellent.
Who do I have next to me?
Pharma propaganda.
Yeah.
Is that what's going on?
Yeah.
Huh?
Are you a holistic?
No, it's
propaganda
big THC propaganda.
Yeah, big THC propaganda. Yeah.
Big herb propaganda. What?
She's a DEA show for Big Pharma. That's what it is. She's infiltrating the cannabis movement through ufology and paranormal subjects.
Lost a lot of money investing in cannabis. That was dumb.
Oh my god! Did you actually?
Yeah. Don't want to talk about that. I don't know why I brought it up, to be honest.
All right,
makes me want to get high.
Hi.
KARI.
It's me, KARI, Mayhem, as usual. As it gets to me, it's Mayhem. And next to me is...
Oh, my dumbass. Hey, everyone. How's it going?
That guy.
Can I just say something real quick? If you're a regular watcher of Bobby's Cryptid Corner, we have shoehorned Tony into a specific role, and we're going to be breaking that this evening.
Yeah.
Right.
We're all about breaking conventions.
Yep.
That's called a cliffhanger.
Yeah. Tony's going to be different. And who do we have there on the bottom? The two lovely ladies.
New beginnings.
Our name is Bree, also G Monster, for today.
My name is Nicole. I'm the security guard of this show. No ruckus. No ruckus.
All right, Big Mama Nikki. All right.
Big Dick Nikki.
Big Dick Nikki D.
All right. Maybe do we got shout outs?
Yeah, let's do some shout outs real quick. To the early arrivers. When you arrive early, you get shout outs. KARI, were you about to say something?
I was just agreeing that we should say hello to the party people. And hello to all the audio people that listen on SoundCloud. There's a bunch of you.
Yep.
My flock is everywhere has been here, or at least started commenting at 8. So that's pretty hardcore.
Early.
Right.
Same thing with Aaron Desario. I don't know who the fuck Bottled Water is. Enzo, of course, he's here right on time. When Enzo arrives, that means it's right on time.
It means he's awake.
And then Vanessa's here.
Vanessa.
Godzilla.
And then we're going to him. Renee Cruz. Loyal Joe 5D. He's my bedtime pal. We send each other voice messages from time to time.
That's so cute. I'm
Um,
jealous.
as we stare up at and look at the same stars at night. And of course, hides in long grass.
I'm jealous.
And Sylvain's here.
Ooh,
And I
get
think
it?
that's it.
And Hawkzilla.
Hawkzilla, of course.
Hawkzilla.
I'm sorry, Hawkzilla.
Miguel.
I don't ever want to know any of your real names, by the way.
Hi, Michael. His name's Michael.
Michael.
I'm all friendly up. Okay.
All right, Bree.
Wow.
Why don't you give us what we're talking about today? We're here for the cryptids, damn it.
The big bad. Oh yeah, Bear Lake Monastery.
All right, so we're talking Bear Lake Monster today. I wanted to do something that was like beachy, lakey, water time because we are coming to the end of summer here. This is like the last true summer month that's out there. And most people have already started school, which is like baffling to me. I'm like, what? Like here in Vegas, it started on Monday. And I'm like, you poor children.
She goes back to school on Sunday.
The school year ends here at the end of July and starts in September. It's so weird.
Yeah, I'm used to like September starting. That's when I started when I was growing up, like in September. But like they're already starting now. And I'm like, damn, okay.
Well, to be fair, Kari, that's why your country can't win a war.
They conquered the planet for like 400 years, bro.
Yeah,
I'm
but
on Team Kari
they've
on
not had the best winning streak for the last 120.
That's because they co-opted the United States government and now they're just running everything through us.
Well, we co-opted the Federal Reserve. And that's how we did that.
Yeah.
1776. Beans and toast.
1913.
All right. So back to
Jamie.
summer.
All right.
Breezy.
Anyway.
Move on to the next slide for me. So this one, we have a low alert. This is like a maybe approach. This is not, I feel like, as threatening as some of the other ones that we've seen. Most people
Look how cute it is.
Yeah, most people's encounters with it is they're just seeing it. It's not necessarily per se attacking it. A lot of people have just witnessed looking at it. So I feel like it's not the craziest, most violent cryptid that we've had around the block.
I want one.
Okay.
All right, so here we got the stats. So like any kind of like water cryptid, I feel like we always have that serpent-like thing. It's always like a, you know, like a snake in the water or something like that. It's always a serpent. This one is either black or dark green. There's been accounts of both. A lot of them saying smooth. I know a lot of times we get like the scales or reptilian or something like that, but this one from a lot of accounts is very much more smooth. Don't get me wrong. There are some people who are like, oh, I saw scales. But for the most part, smooth is kind of like the outlying over here. Red eyes have been encountered from people. Sometimes it is spiky. And what I mean by spiky is not scales, but like it has like fins and stuff all over it. Like not like, you know, like it's like a decorated fish with fins.
Yeah, I'm going to say this now.
Say it. Okay.
Let's see. Everything you just described could be a large fish, but we'll see. We'll see.
But we'll see. And it can be anywhere. And this is the one that this gets me, from 6 feet to 90 feet long.
90 feet.
Yeah.
That's a
So
little much.
both.
Wow.
Both.
Yeah, I can see that as a
Put them
natural.
together. 69.
69.
Is that like an anaconda?
It says Isabella at the bottom.
So the reason Isabella is its name. So the city council had like a vote within the town, and people got to like pick and vote what the name of the lake monster would be. And this little girl, she was like 8 years old, picks the name Isabella, and hers is the name that won. So the official name of the Bear Lake monster is Isabella.
You know why?
I think that's adorable.
A lame ass
Because
name.
Tahoe Tessie got a name, and they want to be just as famous. So
Well, it's a tourist
Yeah, of
thing,
course.
fuck that.
right? We saw that,
No,
very
last time with that town that
it's
adopted
still just Bear Lake
the,
Monster. You don't get a
the
name.
Ozark Howler is
You
there.
don't get a
Like,
name.
I will
This
be
is
referring to the Bear Lake monster through this entire presentation as Isabella.
Its name
Isabella.
could have been like Barry.
Yeah.
That would have
Can
been
you-
way
No.
better.
Isabella.
Can you imagine if they would have held a competition to name it today? It would have been like Lakey McLakeface or
Yeah.
you know, or something like that.
or like
Mick
Yeah,
Big
like
Balls.
Jeb Bush.
Like Bakey.
Osama
Monster
bin Laden.
There was
McMon-
a,
Monster
9/11
face.
was a conspiracy.
They
Birds aren't real.
quick side note. They asked the citizens of Austin, Texas, to put it to a vote on what they should rename or name the sanitation facility, and the one that won was the Fred Durst School for the Arts. And I don't think they didn't go with it, but it was really funny when it happened.
funny.
It was something like that. It was like the Fred Durst School of Music.
I love Fred Durst.
I love that.
I was confused earlier because from a lot of accounts that I read, there was, yes, overall all serpent-like, but then there was a lot that were like, it's a it looks like a crocodile or like an
We'll
alligator.
get into that.
Right.
We'll get into that when we get towards the end. That's
Bless
the thing.
you.
Will we?
Yeah. I
Will
think
we?
so,
What?
yeah.
What? Did we
So-
all independently come to a similar conclusion? Find out later.
Find out later. So here we have the location. So we say Bear Lake, but Bear Lake is split between Idaho and Utah, almost exactly down the middle. And there were core samples that were taken from the middle of the lake that estimate it to be about 250,000 years old. But other scientists who have looked at the tectonic plates think that it's more like 1 million years old, making this like the oldest lake in the area. Because if you know anything about like geography and stuff like that, or how the ice age was, there was bodies of water drying up and filling all the time with everything moving. But to say that this lake is possibly 1 million years old means that this is some of the oldest water in the area. And the reason that this is possible is because the Bear Lake is between two mountains that are like this, and there's tectonic plates underneath them. So every time there's an earthquake, the lake sinks while the mountains get pushed up. So the lake is forever getting deeper and deeper and bigger, and that the water has nowhere to go other than to just stay there.
Bitchin'.
I used to date a girl like that.
Okay,
Hey.
Tony.
Oh,
Tony,
come
how
on.
lo-
That
how
was
far,
funny.
how far are we into this?
It should
13 and a half
Not
minutes.
deep enough. Not
13.
deep enough.
So it should be known that the weather here can be really fucking wild because of how big of an area this is. You can have a completely sunny, calm area in one place, and then in another have a thunderstorm that creates all of these crazy waves and stuff like that. And there's been actually several deaths on the lake because a lot of these storms come out of nowhere, and then people are literally trapped in these thunderstorms on the lake. So the entire lake itself is 70,000 acres. It's 20 miles long, and on the Idaho side it is 8 miles across, and on the Utah side it's about 5 miles across. The last time they measured it, it was roughly 207 feet deep. But like I said, it does get deeper with every earthquake that happens in the area. And then what's really cool about this area is there are 4 endemic species of fish inside of this area. And endemic means that it's only inside of this area. And usually when you think of endemic creatures, you think of an endangered species. There wouldn't be a lot of them. But that is not the case for Bear Lake. These species of fish that are inside of this area and this area only and nowhere else in the world are fucking thriving to the point that they are the main source of food for a lot of the bigger animals that are out there. So it's interesting that you would think that something where it was only found here there wouldn't be a lot of. No, thriving.
Yeah, I saw something where they tried to take some of them and move them in a different environment, and nothing lasted. Maybe one of the trouts barely, but it's the species there, they're meant to be there. They just can't be relocated.
They can
No,
only
it's
live in that
completely-
old as fuck water.
Yeah.
Literally. And also I do want to say that what's the most interesting about Bear Lake is they call it the Caribbean of the Rockies. And the reason that they do that is because the color of the lake is crystal clear and turquoise. And the reason for that is because the entire lake is on limestone, and the limestone reflects the light on the water, and it turns it that beautiful turquoisey color. And because there's lots of limestone underneath, if you know anything about limestone, it creates a lot of caves and things underneath there, and a lot of it has never been explored because they would need a submarine to go down to the depths that are in there, and they can't have just regular people have dived down there, and most people who dive come back up saying that they see things down there that they've never seen in their life before.
Like Jack Osborne, he took his show down there and he dived looking for caves. And I was like, what this fool think he's gonna do? Go looking for the monster and find a cave and it's just him? I'm like, no, that's not gonna happen to you, buddy.
Bibby is go for it, Bibby.
Now, is there a Jimmy Buffett's Margaritaville at Bear Lake?
I don't believe so because it is a Mormon area.
Not in Idaho.
Not
And they
anymore.
weren't- Not any. Well,
I mean,
it
I guess I bet
was.
there's Mormons in Idaho too.
Well,
They
there's
don't just
so many Mormons. in Idaho. I think it's still
Area
considered
in
the Bible
general.
Belt.
Yeah.
It's so uncool that the Mormons get to have these beautiful states. So
Anyway.
unfair.
We'll get into it. All right, give me the next
You
page.
literally live in California.
I was also
I
going to
literally
say
do.
that another reason for the color of the lake are those microscopic little species, and I
Yes.
wish I could remember their name, but I
It starts
learned
with a
about them in
P.
Carolina,
Yeah.
and
it
it's
starts
so
with a P.
cool because like when we looked for them, you would put a flashlight underwater and then turn it off in the middle of the night, and they would all glow.
Glow? Oh, they have
Mhm.
those?
And that's
Yeah.
what feeds the fish that are just particular to that area.
Oh my gosh,
Mhm.
it is
The
so
photoluminescent algae.
Photoluminescence.
It's
Yeah.
very, very pretty. So I, of course, am always doing the native side of things. Just a bit of the native history there. The Native Americans lived there for at least 12,000 years. And the lake area was known as a very prime hunting location for many, many tribes, but especially the Shoshone, and the Ute and the Bannock tribe. The Ute tribe, remember that? I'll bring it up again. Like the Ute tribe is the land that occupies that whole area of Utah, known as the Uinta Basin, the Uinta Mountains, where Skinwalker is. They were the main tribe that is connected to all of that lore, which I think is very interesting. And the Shoshone were also known as the Snake Indians by other tribes in that area. And back then it was named Black Bear Lake by Donald Mackenzie, who was an explorer, and he also belonged to the Northwest Fur Company. So back then there would be like 10,000 Native Americans and from different tribes that would all camp along the 7-mile shoreline of the lake at that point. And then because Mackenzie was basically the first mountain men that they met and was obviously friendly with them, they sort of accepted him as just being another fellow visiting the lake for hunting purposes. And they became pretty tight. And then this area became known for rendezvous, as they say. The Bear Lake Rendezvous was quite a spot back then. So by the summer of 1827, there were thousands of other mountain men along with the natives that already inhabited the area and that were adjacent to that area, would all meet at the beach, and they did things like hang out around the campfire, trade, drink some beers. I mean, this was, I imagine, as like a party. Like now people are always at the Hudson River and they're just partying. It's like that, but with the natives and the mountain men. So a lot of them were very famous figureheads to us, such as Jim Bridger, Jedediah Smith, William Ashley, and they would just hang out all night and just drink themselves away after trading. So one of the mountain men, Philip Covington, described the 1828 rendezvous in this quote: "Plenty of fine horses, plenty of fine brandy and whiskey at $2 a pint for a tin cup full, plenty of goods and groceries of every description. Horse racing and shooting were carried on to a considerable degree, while card playing and drinking was not neglected." So this really was a party area. Kind of before shit hit the fan when it came to the natives and the white man, I think. This was an area before other settlers came where things were pretty cohesive between each other.
So the Mormons showed up and ruined the party, is what you're saying.
Yeah, so there wasn't any like strange political intentions that ruined this symbiosis between the two of them. It was like, this is a great spot. I mean, this lake is full of all of this life and this hunting, and we're all going to meet here every summer and trade massive amounts and drink the night away. And I imagine this is also where the stories of maybe this sea serpent could have gone around. I can imagine, like, late at night, the campfire, the natives start talking about their folklores and what could be in the water. And, a drunken white man could be like, I see something in the lake. I think that's like where the story starts to spin a little bit. And then, if you guys can see here, I'm going to introduce the Bear River. The Bear River connects to the Uinta Mountains. So again, the Uinta Basin, as I feel like people most know, Skinwalker Ranch. It connects there, and then it flows through Wyoming, Idaho, and then it loops back into Utah. And you can see Bear Lake right here. So it's all connected. There was a point in which they full on made, how do you say that? They connected the river into Bear Lake, making it a reservoir. And Bear River is known for what's called the Bear River Massacre. And so this very same tribe, the Shoshone tribe that inhabited that area where, 40 years ago or whatever, everyone's getting along and drinking. Now this became a place where during the Civil War, the white man came in the middle of the night and raped and pillaged and burned everyone down to the ground. Unfortunately, 270 to 400 of the Shoshone people, men, women, and children, were murdered by the U.S. Army that day. So just a little bit of Native history for you guys.
I have a question. Do you know if it was the Confederates or the Union that did that?
You know what? I don't. Well, if it was a U.S. Army, what side of the Civil War were they on? They weren't Confederates.
What year was it?
It was during the Civil War. So this was
Confederates were more
1863.
in the South.
Didn't even get out really that far, I don't think.
No, it didn't. That would have been the Union
They're all just
Army.
territories.
Yeah,
So-
and honestly,
This could have just been like a roving gang taking advantage of the fact that there's a civil war going on. So
yeah,
Right.
honestly, the U.S. Army got way better at killing civilians later.
Right.
So they pumped those numbers up. Don't anybody worry about that.
No, it was a great.
Thanks,
It was a great
Obama.
Yeah, it was. It was a great loss to the Shoshone people, which they actually try to bring awareness to today, because during the time it happened, because it was during the Civil War, there was no attention to it. And also people didn't know the background where that in that area, they got along peacefully with people, peacefully with the white man. And they're trying to bring awareness to these really random massacres that happened, especially because back in that day when the Shoshone tribe was the main people on that land, they had made kind of a treaty with the white folk that were traveling along the California and Oregon Trail when there was that great move to the west. They made this pact with each other, this will be our area, you guys can come, whatever kind of a thing. And then of course, as we know with history, I say we as in white people made these promises to these tribes that we wouldn't then enter or cross over their land, but in fact we did. And then sometimes it was just easier to kill them all and then take the land rather than negotiate or what have you. So to me it seems like a lot of Native tragedy, a once good time turned tragedy, and just the fact of the people there, that it goes back to the Uinta Basin. I just think it's really interesting. It always sets up for not a portal situation, but there's like all these different aspects that come together, especially when you throw in the lens from being in the bed of the lake. Then you also have supercharged abilities for paranormal phenomena to occur.
Agreed. All right, so this is really where the story starts to get spicy and where the Bear Lake Monster really starts to get big. So there's this guy, Joseph C. Rich, and he was among some of the first settlers of the Idaho Territory. And in 1847, him and his family traveled with the Mormon pioneers from Illinois to the Salt Lake Valley. And in 1849, Charles Rich became an apostle of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. In 1860, Rich left the area and traveled to England, where he went around as a missionary. And it should be known that during this time, his dad was the head of the Mormon church in England. So the family kind of moved there. So he was a big deal in the Mormon church. He wasn't just a random dude. His family was in it. And so he also ended up coming back. And then when he came back, he ended up running for city council, and he ended up on the board. It's called the Council of Fitty that he was on. And then the next year in 1868, Rich wrote an article in the Desert News, which he claimed a group of settlers had seen a monster swimming in the waters of Bear Lake. And this is really when the Bear Lake Monster became popular explosion. Next slide, May.
Explosion. I have this feeling if only we could have killed him then, it would have saved so many people in the future.
I think that dude looks slightly like Tony.
I don't agree with you, and we'll talk about that later. Why? So this is. I'm not going to read the entire article because it's really fucking long, but I'm going to read up into a certain point. So it says, all lakes, caves, and dens have their imaginary histories. Tradition loves to throw her magic wand over beautiful dells and lakes and people them with fairies, giants, and monsters of various kinds. Bear Lake has also its monster tale to tell, and when I have told it, I will tell you to judge whether or not it merits are merely traditionary. The Indians say that there is a monster animal which lives in the lake that has been captured and carried away by Indians while in the lake swimming, but they say it has not been seen by them for many years, not since the buffalo invaded the valley. They represent it as being of a serpent kind, but having legs about 18 inches long, on which they sometimes crawl out of the water a short distance to shore. They also say it spirits water upwards out of its mouth. Since the settlement of the valley, several persons have reported seeing a huge animal of some kind, and that they could not describe. But such persons have generally been alone when they saw it, but little credence has been attached to the matter until the summer that the monster question had died about. About 3 weeks ago, Mr. S.M. Johnson, who lives on the east side of the lake at a place called South Eden, was going on the Round Valley settlement 6 miles to the south of his place. And when about he was halfway there, he saw something in the lake, which at the time he thought to be a drowned person. The road being some little distance from the water's edge, he rode to the beach, and the waves were running pretty high. He thought it would soon wash up to shore. In a few minutes, 2 or 3 feet of some kind of animal that he had never seen before raised out of the water. He did not see the body, only the head and what he supposed to be a part of the neck. It had ears or bunches on the side of its head, nearly as large as a pint cup. The waves at the time would dash over its head, and then it would throw the water from its mouth or nose. It did not drift inward, but appeared stationary, while the exception of turning its head. Mr. Johnson thought the portion of the body must lie on the bottom of the lake, or it would have drifted with the action of the water. Mr. Johnson's version, as he told me. The next day, an animal of a monster kind was seen near the same place by a man and 3 women who said it was swimming when they first saw it. They represented it as being very large, and they said it swam much faster than a horse could run on land. These recent discoveries received the monster question. Those who have seen it brought it to claims anew, and many people began the story that was not altogether moonshine. And then the rest of the article goes on to say like 5 or 6 different instances of people that John interviewed and talked to himself. And at the end of this, he says, interest was high enough. At the end of it, he says, sorry. I have already extended this letter beyond its limit I designed. The health of people is good, and everything satisfactory, except the rushing, buzzing music of everlasting grasshoppers as they waft themselves through the air, frightened with our grain in the milk. May them mash their brains out against the North Pole. What a weird thing to end it
Wow.
on. He just like wrapped it up. So the article really did create a stir in the Salt Lake area, and within a month, a new staff member quizzed many Bear Lake people in the area and couldn't find one person who doubted it. The LDS church leaders also took an interest in the monster when they visited the area on preaching tours, and they took the opportunity to speak firsthand with the residents of the area. They stated that they had conversations with Brother C. Charles Rich and other brethren from Bear Lake Valley respecting the monster which has been in the lake, and they found that they declared that the testimony had been given by so many individuals who have seen these creatures in so many places in a varying of circumstances that the locals had to consider the story to be indisputable. Interest was so high at one point that the LDS Church president, Brigham Young, decided to investigate the claims himself, and he went down there, and he was quoted as saying it was an honest tale of a serpent or only a fish story. It was either or, he said. But he did go as far as to send rope out to people who were like trying to build a trap to capture it. But sadly, like most things I think that happen of that time when people say they see a monster, little bitch Joe here ended up saying that it was all fake. He did it in a news article, and when he said it was fake, he was also announcing that he started a new business, that he was going to have a ferry that goes across Bear Lake.
Well, there you go.
Where's that quote that I had? And I think in that same article, and he was just saying like that it's known. Never mind. I just remember reading. He was like, "Hey, it's been known for a long time from like native people that this is real, like back story." Basically,
I said that at the beginning. Yeah, that was like the first part. Like he was like, "Yeah, this has gone back through the Native Americans of the time and stuff like that." Like, and here's the thing. So, what a lot of people say is, okay, it's just a hoax, but despite him coming out and saying that in like literally the 1800s, people to this day are still having sightings of such a beast and creature. Many of them who had absolutely no prior knowledge of there being some like serpent thing inside of Bear Lake. So is it really that he made it all up, or is that he took stories, elaborated them, and that's what he was making up when he was talking about this article that he wrote? You know what I mean? Like more of like he wrote like a fictionalized version of something, you know?
I think he probably did see it. And then when he wanted to have a business where this ferry went across the lake, he knew that what he was pushing about a lake monster isn't so good for business traveling people across the lake.
Yeah.
Maybe.
He was like, I take it back. I was just fucking around.
Maybe.
Come
I
on,
guess the next slide.
Totes.
Oh, that's me. Hello.
Wait, hold on.
It's you.
So there we go.
Look how
Okay.
pretty.
So it's very blue, right? That's one thing I was really like, wow, about. Considering how far north it is, I think I flew over this a few months ago because I remember seeing a lake that was like super blue.
Yeah.
Down.
On August 27th, 1873, a Deseret News, which I guess is like one of the local news papers of the time, said in an article, "This monster he never saw, but the one was master of the lake and lived by devouring the animals which came by night to its brink to drink." A month later, the September 1873 Deseret News said someone was observing the lake, waiting to see a monster pop up, but the monster hadn't done so yet. So I guess that's kind of following immediately on from the Latter-day Saints interest.
Mm-hmm.
It's news media of the time, other people were kind of taking interest.
Exactly.
There was another article from July 1877 in the same newsprint, titled "Quite Fishy," which poked fun at the folklore that was starting to build around the Bear Lake monster. And they said, quote, "However, Saxley's Bear Lake monster has the precedence, having made its debut ahead of this Monument Point visitor. One would suppose that the waters of the lake were plenty salt enough without his crocodile ship. The fact is, we prefer to take the whole story with a few grains of salt.
I love that.
Okay, next slide. Oh, okay, the salt
Next
one
slide.
was supposed to be this slide, yeah. Okay. So in 1881, Apostle George Q. Cannon reported having seen the Bear Lake Monster or something of that kind while strolling along the lake's shoreline. Desiree News printed news from a correspondent who said, while on the way from Fish Haven, a number of the party saw what they supposed was the celebrated Bear Lake Monster. It was described as a large undulating body with about 30 feet of exposed surface of a light cream color, moving swiftly through the lake at a distance of about 3 miles from where they were, which is kind of interesting. Like, that's pretty quick, and to be being able to spot something from 3 miles away that's 30 feet, I guess it would have to stand out against the blue water quite a lot.
Yeah, it would have to be a massive creature.
And you'd also have to be high up.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe like they're
They would only see
on
the
the
top.
mountain kind of thing. Maybe that's why it's 3 miles, because they're like a mile inland and up.
Yeah, so they know.
Mm.
All right, next slide.
Okay, take it away, Tony.
Interesting.
Take it, Tony.
Ooh, 1907. So in 1907, an eyewitness told the Logan Republican on September 18th the following. These are in quotations. It was now close enough for us to see that it was some water monster, then started towards us like a mad elephant. Before we could move, he grabbed the horse with his 2 front paws, opened his teeth into it like a bull terrier would a mouse. After tearing the horse badly, he bade an awful howl and was gone. So this was the first official recorded sighting after Joseph Rich admitted to it being, like kind of made up. Like fake, hoax, made up, right? So I know.
Are you saying it's bears?
No,
Hey,
I'm not.
don't fucking upstage my section.
That's not actually my job this week. All right, so now we have 1930. In 1930, there was a sighting where people at the lake got really excited. They saw a large creature swimming through the lake. They didn't know what it was, and they all started panicking and everything, and it turned out to be a moose. But this is actually, well, that's an elk. But the funny thing is, that part of Utah, you wouldn't really see a moose there, so that would be, something that would alarm people that there's some type of monster in the water. So that's actually,
yeah, I think that's like super important to keep context in mind. Like, these people did not have the internet. They didn't have zoo books growing up. They didn't have National Geographic. Like, people only really knew the animals from, their local
what they saw.
And then maybe some educated people or some people like had some knew about like elephants and shit or whatever else. But like, there was no like dictionary of animals. Like, if you showed these people like a platypus, their head would fucking explode, I think. So
right.
Yeah,
They all
like,
thought
everything's a monster
like,
if you haven't defined it.
I'm old enough where, like, in elementary school, we had to look everything up inside encyclopedias. They didn't have
Yep.
encyclopedias then.
Well, back then, was it
Oh,
like, if it wasn't in the Bible, they had no idea what the hell it was?
What it was,
Yeah.
yeah.
Unicorns were in the
Yes.
Bible, so they
This
knew what
was
unicorns were.
Oh.
Yes.
That's a true
Definitely
story.
knew
Look it
all
up.
about
Everybody
sodomy.
look it up.
I'm
So,
gonna
1937. 1937, there's a lone sighting from a 4-year-old girl who claimed to see a monster. There was no further information on this sighting, so I decided to illustrate it in 1937 speak. Mommy, there's a monster. And then Dad just came home after working all week in the factory, and he's like, if you don't shut her up, Susan. He's like, I swear to God, why did I marry you as my third wife? I
Why are
cannot
we
stand
here?
this shit.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. See, if you don't shut up,
How
here,
did
Susan.
you get like a mile out into the forest?
Well, you know,
Well.
he went out there
Why do
just
they, why do they look
That's
like
where he
they
goes to
work in
beat her.
Silicon Valley?
Ah, okay.
well.
You said you
They
got
look
home
like
from
they're in
work
a cult.
in the forest, so I'm just
Yeah, they look like
placing
Mormons.
myself in your story here.
So
All right, give us the next
this
one.
is dark. In 1946, there was a sighting by a Boy Scout troop leader. There, once again, there's no further information, and as you can see, the troop leader is telling the troop, that's right, Timmy. It was a lake monster that you saw because we all get
Now,
that
why does he
joke.
have reptilian eyes? Because he's a
Ah.
Boy Scout troop leader.
Yeah, because we're just not gonna talk about where that joke comes from.
Yes,
All right, give us the
notorious
next one, Nicole.
chomos.
2002. All right, this is like the most recent. In June of 2002, this guy named Hershey claimed to see the monster. So Hershey is a very interesting person. That right there that you see on the screen is his pontoon boat that he uses for tours on the lake to go and look for the monster. So coincidentally enough, one day in June, he was anchoring his boat, and he said he saw the monster only 100 yards from his tour boat. Of course, this was immediately met with scrutiny, as everyone was like, because this happened right before, I think it was like Memorial Day, whatever one is in June.
Big tourist day.
Yeah, it's major tourism weekend, and he went on to say he saw 2 humps in the water, and the next thing he knew, this giant serpent shot out of the water, and it had like this green slimy skin, just like the lore says that it looked like not too different from his pontoon boat, but less slimy. And he said when it went back down into the water that it made a roar like a bull.
Ooh.
I just want to shout out Enzo's top tier LDS pun there.
That was a great one.
That was a great pun.
All right, give us the next
Yes.
one, Nico.
Enzo. All right, let's take a moment and just reflect on Utah in general. This is Skinwalker Ranch is in Utah, correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
On the top border or something,
yeah. We have all kinds of Native American lore and strange phenomenon going on in the state in general. Notorious Bigfoot state, one of the big Bigfoot states of the Rockies. UFOs, obviously, skinwalkers. I think that's KARI there in the background.
Oh, yeah, if you look closely, you can see me.
But there's 2 I want to focus on specifically because we've talked about Bigfoots and UFOs, obviously, and skinwalkers. And keep in mind, this isn't necessarily Bear Lake area specifically, but some of them are. Anyway, we're just talking Utah. All right. Can we go to the next slide? The first one I want to talk about is a giant grizzly bear named Old Ephraim. I want to say that Ephraim was just kind of a term for like big scary bear back then. But this was in the Logan Canyon area, not too far from Bear Lake. And it was known in the early turn of the century for terrorizing livestock owners in this area, said to have killed as many as 150 sheep in a single summer, according to historical accounts. Now, if you look up the flora and fauna of this area, grizzlies are not a big part of it, if any at all. They are known more for black bears. Many people consider this the last grizzly of Utah, right? In 1923, there was a sheep herder. Were you going to say something there, Tony?
Yeah, so of course, when I started looking into this, I misread my role. So Ephraim is actually the name of a bear from Barnum and Bailey's that got loose in that area.
Oh.
And that's where they think that this
not.
bear came from.
Interesting. I did not come across that. I'm glad you confused your roles on this episode. But let me ask you this, because you're the traditional
bear
Game warden
hating
here.
person.
Let's go with
Yes.
that theory for a second. Do circuses have grizzly bears, let alone gigantic ones? And even if they did, if one escaped, wouldn't it be like more tame and docile than one that just maybe not? I
Unless
guess
it's been abused and it's
I was like, none of
got
it
a
was like
vendetta.
abused.
yeah, it's like a Michael
Yeah.
Vick bear.
Right.
Well,
It's
yeah,
killing
This is
people.
always
Yeah.
that an animal escaped.
Well, it's more like
A
Michael
more-
Douglas and falling down, but
That's
a
always
more
that-
dangerous animal than a wild animal is a captive animal that doesn't know where it is and is scared and it has no idea how to react in its environment.
Interesting. That makes sense. But yeah, Frank Clark finally killed it in August of 1923. So it was and this is a great example of one of those like, oh, it's the legend of the area. It's not actually real. It's just old farmers telling tall tales. Nope. Frank Clark killed it in 1923. The bear skull was actually sent to the Smithsonian in 1978. And according to the Smithsonian, it was estimated the bear itself, not the skull, was estimated to have weighed 1,100 pounds and stood 9 feet 11 inches. 9'11". Hello.
Big boy.
Sounds a little like
Oh.
some occult dog whistle there
I have
with
a
the
twin?
Smithsonian, I must say. But let me just read the account of Mr. Frank Clark. I was
pour some
camping.
jet fuel on it.
Yes. Jet fuel does not melt giant grizzly bears. I'm sorry.
No.
But this is so stupid. No, it's so stupid. I was camped 1 mile down the canyon in a tent. The night was fine, beautiful, a starlit night, and I was sleeping fine when I was awakened. I like how people back then, just when they told a story, they knew how to tell a story, right?
Painted a picture.
poetry.
Yeah, because they didn't have things to do that for them. So this is just some farmer saying this. It sounds like fucking Robert Frost. All right, anyway. The night was fine, beautiful, a starlit night, and I was sleeping fine. I take that back. That's a little redundant. When I was awakened by a roar and a groan near camp, I had a dog, but not a sound came from Mr. Dog. I tried to get to sleep, but no chance. I don't think he actually had a name for his dog because that's how they didn't name dogs back then. They're just
Dog.
It's the fucking dog. So I got up and put on my shoes, but no trousers. So you have a shoeless sheep herder with no pants on and a 35 caliber carabine walking around in a canyon pursuing a giant noise, right?
That's a vibe.
Yeah, right. Fucking paint that in a art exhibit.
Exactly.
I did not know if it was as he's like on a casual basis with this bear. EPH. In fact, I thought it was a horse that was down. Was in the creek in some wallows, and after I got past him, he let me know all at once that it was not a horse. What should I do? Alone, the closeted human being 3 miles away from the between me and the camp. And that was an excerpt from Frank Clark's account of these events. So ultimately, he ended up taking down the old frame, and it's kind of like a town character now in the area. They have all these monuments to him. That's his grave on the far right. But yeah, it was a legendary. I love a cryptid that ends up being a true cryptid.
That is very cool. There's a lot of interesting history there, especially with the Bailey and Barnum thing.
Well, they
Yeah.
also buried it. I mean, look at that. They had a grave
They
for the
buried
grizzly.
it.
Well,
Fuck.
clearly they're trying to
That
do
was right in front of me.
Yep.
Yeah, so that is one local legend. So this area shares several mysterious monsters, one of which ended up being real, which might be worthy of a consideration when we get to Factor Sci-Fi about the classic Bear Lake monster. Now, I had never heard of water babies until this magical adventure I went on to research for this episode of Bobby's Cryptid Corner, and I'm very glad that I have now. Water babies are something that I would like to dedicate an entire episode on one day, but I'm going to give you Reader's Digest version of what a water baby is. Again, I don't know if I've completely. I can't say for sure. These are known for Bear Lake, but they're found in the lakes of Utah. So early Native Americans tell the story of water babies. Okay, long ago, stories described the water babies as being the size of a human and they look like mermaids. So there's some depictions of them with like fins on there. Yeah, you can kind of see it in the far right. There's like a fin coming out of his ass there, but that's like a super evolved mermaid, right? That's like a humanoid with just like that motherfucker is like Michael Phelps, right? They sound like they mimic a crying baby, the innocent sound to use to lure its victims. You hear this a lot in everything from Women in the Woods lore to Bigfoot lore to a lot of cryptids. It's always about giving some explanation to some weird sound that people hear in the woods nearby, and I think that that's the source of a lot of this kind of stuff. And a lot of times, if you just go listen to like different animals' cries, it's like pretty obvious that it's probably like a fox or something like that. So, what they're known to do, they're not. If we had a cryptid, what is it called? The cryptid risk factor or whatever at the beginning of the show, this would probably be a high risk. They lure the victims in the water with their screeching crybaby sounds, and they capture it and drag it down in the depths of the lake, never to be seen again. So these are water spirits found all throughout American folklore, but it's said to inhabit the lakes of Utah as well. Some cases have fish tails, some are more reptilian-like, and it's one of those demon creatures, right? It's like not something that you want to like. You don't want to like go hang out with that thing,
For sure.
And yes, question.
Oh wait, I'm sorry. Not till the end.
I have a question.
Yes.
Do you reckon? So there's all these caves underneath the lake, right?
Mm-hmm.
That could
Water
lead to
baby
caverns where there's air pockets and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So
Absolutely.
there could
Wait,
be like
caves specifically
populations
for
that
water
way.
babies?
Yeah.
Water baby caves?
Well, are these
Possibly.
like? Did you bring these up because they're also in the area, or just because they're similar?
Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
they're in the
they're like kind of a Utah thing.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe this depiction of these little footprints on the left is in Utah as well. Don't quote me on that, but
Okay.
so yeah, I mean, we talk about it all the time. Like we talk about caves or like the depths of whether it be a freshwater lake or the ocean. It's like we've navigated more of the sky than we have the ocean, right? Like
Yep.
we know more about what's going on up there than we do what's going on down there. And then you get into
1000%,
all,
yeah.
like super weird hollow earth theory stuff, and like how a lot of these cryptids may just be like subterranean species of humanoids and all that stuff. So yeah, this kind of like, it's kind of like that movie The Descent, only in the water.
Mm.
Right? Water babies. They're
like
not as cute as
siren
they sound.
abortions.
Siren abortions.
Siren abortions.
Well, no, because they wouldn't be full-bodied.
Well,
I was actually
That's
going
why
to go
they're
with
an
maybe
abortion.
it's just people that threw their baby in the water. and
Well,
then
they're
they-
also really far away from Greece, so
Okay.
are sirens only in Greece?
mythologically,
Yeah, but not.
Yes.
I think they have them in
Who
Irish culture too.
Not
Who
realistically.
says? Have you ever watched Pirates of the Caribbean? Okay. They're on
Oh,
the
yeah,
Caribbean.
the Disney movie.
The Caribbean.
Disney
Alright,
is
give
canon.
us, give us the neck one.
you're
us the
lucky I
next.
like you, Nicole.
Can I go to the next slide, please? I'm tired of talking about abortions. So this is just an intro slide to let everyone know that instead this week Tony might be helping out and chiming in, but they're giving me the audition for Game Warden this time
Mhm.
around. I think it's more like
Yeah.
Tony was tired of just doing a slide with a few bears
Shitting on it.
each week.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was
But
tired
fear
of being
not.
hated every week.
Fear not, there are bears involved in this week's earthly explanations. So let's go to the next slide, please. If you look at a lot of eyewitness accounts, people will often reference things like, I thought it was a school of fish. I thought it was like a recreational inner tube. Now, when we were creating this for everyone that's watching, specifically Enzo and Dirty Mike and Joe 5D and Vanessa and the rest of yous, Thunderzilla. Someone in our show notes put maybe a paddlefish, maybe a sturgeon, and I took it upon myself to research. There's not very many large fish at all in this lake. It's mostly, well, let me pull it up real quick. Let me pull up my list of fish species of Bear Lake so we can knock these off the list of possibilities, right? The Bonneville Cisco, which is like, it's like 7 inches long. I don't think that that's what people are seeing. No. You got the Bear Lake whitefish. This is one of those endemic species that's only native, I believe, to. You're getting up to 12 inches with that one. The Bonneville whitefish, 20 inches. Okay, we're getting a little bigger, but nothing like we've described yet. The Bear Lake sculpin, which is like 4 inches max. And then the cutthroat trout, which is the size of a trout. They can reach about 40 inches, but nothing massive. And then a couple other like smaller fish. There's a chub. There's a fish called a Utah chub. Utah chubs are not allowed until your wedding night. I'll tell you that.
You've just described me to a T, a 4-inch chub.
I love it.
All right. Lots of trout. There's different types of trout. Trout can get pretty big.
That was borderline hate crime there.
My point is, I don't think it's a fish. If it's a fish, it's some sort of amorphous blob collective moving in unison school of fish. But because you will see that in some eyewitness accounts that people are like, hey, I thought it was a school of fish, and then like it emerged from the water, and it was not. Hey, wait, whoa. I'm not done here. I'm not done here.
Go back. Who did that? Shame.
Elk. We've talked about elk tonight. Could be an elk. Bears. We've talked about bears quite a few times. Sometimes bears like to go swimming. Sometimes elk can be found in the water. If you don't know what an elk is, hey, maybe it's a fucking mermaid serpent thing. So I don't know. And then someone also, I saw an account where someone says like, I thought it was maybe one of those like inner tubes that people take out into the ocean.
Yep.
So I don't know. My very large logs. I that's a typo. It shouldn't say very large logs. It should say very large logs.
I read it as very large. So
yeah, me too.
Good. I shouldn't point that out then. I think that very large logs can be an explanation for a lot of these types of creatures. But I did want to point out that my trout in this slide is enormous.
It's also a rainbow trout.
All right, game warden, you're going back to your old job next week.
Can I did a bit of research on this.
Yes, please chime in.
So alligators could technically survive in that water temperature, and there's like
no.
How the fuck are they gonna get there, Kari?
First of all, it freezes
from like
it's a prehistoric lake.
Yeah,
it freezes over wintertime.
Yeah, it's cold as fuck up there.
If you know anything about reptiles, they cannot survive in cold temperatures. They have to have.
When I was
for a couple
looking
days.
at the description of it, it made me think of alligator, and then I started googling Bear Lake and alligators, and then
I thought I missed something, and then Kari says alligators. I'm like, nah, I didn't miss that.
No, not alligators.
But I like the inquisitiveness.
You would have to have an alligator. You would have to have an alligator walk almost 2,000 miles to get to that water to begin with.
I think
before
it could have been introduced.
I think that's less likely than it just. I think that's actually more likely than it even surviving in those conditions, right? Like, are there they're all in like subtropical, tropical climates, right?
Yeah.
It's the same
but
thing.
I mean, it wouldn't shock me if some sort of prehistoric animal, like for say, instance, an alligator, like that's what they say about things like Nessie is like, like it's like this landlocked lake that was untouched by evolution for whatever reason, and you know, we have these fucking creatures from the prehistoric era in it. So I don't know. Maybe it is interesting how we say that about things like Loch Ness, and then now we're seeing these creatures and things like the Bear Lake. And
Right.
this goes into my theory: is this like a ghost of an ancient time? Is there a frequency of ghostliness of cryptids, or like not a flesh and blood thing? It's just kind of a flash of a remnant of a previous era, a rift in the matrix, if you will. Jamie,
Maybe an electrical charge from the salt content in the water.
yes.
All
I
right.
have a
So,
question.
Yeah, wait.
What?
Has anyone been able to go to the bottom of this lake? Since
No.
I thought you were just supposed to sit there and wear sunglasses.
I personally
no.
like.
Hey, Paul Blart.
Okay.
So no, I said that. So the thing is they've had some divers go down there to the shallower depths because they're like divers or whatever, but like they can't go down all the way. Someone would need to bring like a submarine to go down to that area in order to really. So the thing is like
And we've
it's
seen how
not
badly that
fully.
goes.
It's
Yeah.
not
Oh, yeah.
exactly. It's
Don't
not
bring the
fully the area. And the thing, another thing is like the caves. Like you can't go into a cave underwater trying to
In a
explore
submarine,
it.
yeah.
Because
True.
not even a submarine could really do that, because like how do you get back out? What happens when you run out of power or air, or like it's not. So trying to explore this area deeper into those things is not something that's currently possible at this time. So there's a lot of unknowns of this area, even though there is a lot of
I
earthly
just
Feel
feel
like
explanations.
Tahoe though. They're doing it in Tahoe.
they are, but I just
Yeah.
feel like this isn't something to discredit, because I think that things that are prehistoric that are still active here, like easily.
Can you wait until we get to Factor Sci-Fi?
Yeah.
We're almost there.
We're almost there. Go to the next one,
I can't wait.
because we're literally about to talk about the prehistoric
Oh,
side.
I
of
missed
it.
the
Yeah.
cat
here-
fight.
So here's the thing, you guys. There were dinosaurs. I hope none of us are non-dinosaur believers, right? We're all dinosaur believers. We understand dinosaurs were real.
I'm on the
But-
fence.
So if dinosaurs are real, are birds real?
Birds are not real. They're created by the government. Anyways,
Yeah.
so in this area,
It's
there
not
was
hard to
the-
figure out, Kari.
In this area was the Megalosaurus and the Ceratopscopa chops, whatever.
Just
And these fossils-
Serpentisucops.
These fossils were found in the Wyoming area, which is like not far from Utah. It's literally like a hop, skip, and a jump from the area. And these things are like millions of years old, and they found fossils in this area. This area in general, Wyoming, Idaho, Utah, all this stuff is a hub for fossils. Every single one of these states have their own fossil museums. They have full intact giant fossils of things. Like it's a big hub for this area. And so you have those two specific things that were possibly could be what they're talking about. I mean, like, look at these pictures. It's the one on top and the one to the right. They're long necked, they're big bodied, like Bree was talking about. Remember how you were talking about, Bree, about maybe they looked a little bit more like alligator-y? These are these versions of these prehistoric creatures. And who's not to say, because this lake hasn't been untouched for, a million years, that you're not like, there could be a possibility that this species has still survived in this area, specifically because of the endemic species of fish that are in this area who are a food source. So there's been a constant, steady food source for millions of years. So who's not to say something like of those couldn't have been in that area. And then they also have the Basilosaurus here. And what's interesting about the Basilosaurus is it has that smoothness that we were talking about, the dark color that a lot of people assume. But what's even more known about it is that it is known to have traveled through rivers and underground lakes and caves and stuff to get throughout the world back in its time. And they were also found in Antarctica. There was bones of them in Antarctica, which proves that they could survive really, really cold temperatures. So there's no reason that they couldn't have survived inside of Bear Lake. So here we have real life, actual things. And I think that this is leaning towards my idea of it being one of these dinosaurs from the area of its time that has just survived for this long and is coming up every once in a while and doing its thing, or like something like that. And so I think
that part Jamie.
Yeah, I think
Well,
that like
especially for how old the lake is.
Yeah.
for how old the lake is. And again, they're pulling up bones that look like these kind of animals in this area. And the people are describing animals that literally look like this. So hello, there's 1,000% a connection there. How could there not be? So with
Tommy
that,
was
bring it
abducted
into
by the
factor
CIA.
sci-fi. With that, bring it into factor sci-fi.
Wow, it's Tommy
Bam.
Douglas.
So like I said, I'm leaning towards the side of this shit being a real life dinosaur that has just survived millions of years. Not the same dinosaur. I don't think it's like the same one, but I think that it's possibly a species of something that might be going on in this area. And so it is indeed what I think the core of a cryptid is. It's this unknown thing that we've never seen, don't understand, don't know anything about, and we're trying to put it into our box to make sense of what animals would be here today. But the reality of it is that the landscape of that area was completely different than what it is today, and those
Right.
animals don't look like the evolution that happened after such thing. And I believe that there's 1,000% possibilities that there's these underground caves. There's literally tectonic plates, like things are moving down there all the time. Like
They should use
things are
LiDAR.
connected in ways. I wish maybe
That'd
we
be
need to
great.
find people to, spend more money and go and research it and stuff like that. That's what really needs to happen. But I am facting this on the side of it being 100% an ancient dinosaur species. Kari, what do you think?
I'm like an 8 out of 10. I think it was something. Like, it's been in native lore for a long time. There were sightings after. I mean, yes, that guy hoaxed the story and it definitely created a mythology around it. We see that a lot, but it seems to have had accounts before that. I mean, the tribe was called was it the Snake Tribe, which is interesting because it matches the description of the cryptid. So I always tend to trust that stuff a little bit more than I would like, the white man coming over and saying, "Hey, I've got a furry business." But
for sure,
yeah, I think it was. If it is a thing that is real, it's probably some kind of prehistoric animal that's survived in the limestone caves under the lake. There's
For
probably
sure.
caverns and stuff under there. So
for sure.
Yeah.
Bibby?
1 sci-fi.
Contrarian. Explain yourself, sir.
Yeah. Elaborate.
Yeah, I don't jive really with aquatic cryptids. No, I'm actually gonna middle bitch this one. I don't know. It's interesting, and I like to trust people. I like to give people the benefit of the doubt, and you have some native lore on record to back it up. There's just not a lot to work with here, so I'm gonna give it a hard 5.
Okay.
Hard
Bree
5.
and Nikki?
You first.
No, I was gonna say you go first.
Okay.
You guys have to choose the same thing.
No, we don't.
No, we don't.
We're separate individuals. We're 12 years apart.
Extremely separate.
Goddamn.
Okay. I have my opinion. Do you?
Okay, then go.
Okay. I'm leaning towards metal bitch to fact. One, I believe in almost any Native American story. I feel like if anyone were to see anything of the past and have it recorded, it would be them. I don't think that this is something I have a hard time putting things that could be very much like prehistoric, ancient or whatever into this like cryptid or paranormal or like unexplained category.
Well, cryptid just means that it could be an animal that hasn't been identified.
Identified.
Yeah.
Oh.
O'Reilly.
So I just feel like this is definitely plausible. I think that this is just some big ass fish.
Okay. Well.
Big ass fish.
Big ass
Bree?
fish.
Is that it?
And I think that it makes it even more spooky that we can't get to the bottom. I feel like that says a lot.
I
mean,
agree.
we could if we really
Definitely
tried.
spooky.
If we really tried, yeah. I at first was also going to middle bitch / fact. It's middle bitch / fact. But then overall, I guess I would just have to fact it for the same reasons. I always believe the natives over anyone. I think there's enough background to lift this thing up, to give it some oomph for its story. It is hard for me though to believe that people have seen it there. Only because if the water is so crystal clear and blue, I feel like everyone would see it if it came close to the surface. But then again, that's obviously if it came to the surface. If there's underground caves and if it is continuously going down this fault line, the same as Tahoe, by the way, then you just don't know how deep it gets. I feel like when we do get to Tahoe Tessie, there are going to be like severe similarities
For sure.
stuff of like the Native American history, how deep the lake is, their circumstances, the geography. A lot of it is so much the same, and which is why I also believe in that. So when it comes to underground caves and the bottom of that lake basically being bottomless, I have to fact it because it's totally unknown. I can't rule that out. I'd rather stick with the unknown.
So is anyone going to start like a GoFundMe so we can build a submarine to go?
I'm all set.
I'm gonna be real with you. I don't want to go in a submarine. Yeah, I'm gonna.
As long as we build it on a carbon fiber.
Too soon.
But for the
soon.
sake of science, I will.
So no. What we need to do is we need to call James Cameron and have James Cameron do a movie about Bear Lake, and then
Right.
yeah. All right, Tony, what do you think?
Well, I think a lot of things.
It's a bear.
No.
In the
I don't
lake.
think it's-
In the lake, it's a bear.
Lake Bear.
First
It's
of
a
all,
fucking bear.
y'all are assholes because when I saw Bear Lake, I was like, are these fuckers trying to fucking trigger me?
Is this even a real place?
We all thought the same thing.
But I kind of like Nicole's train of thought. Trust the people who had no absolute idea of science, and that's exactly what we should do. And hey,
They had some science back then.
I think well,
them short.
yeah, science was just magic back then, right?
What science did you put into this?
I mean,
My
yeah, you're not
brother.
wrong.
No, but you are
Oh
wrong.
dear.
Because
Yes, she is. It's okay.
Okay,
Who's
So
wrong?
do you believe it or
Am-
no?
okay,
No, it's a fucking. There was a story of a moose, a story of a bunch of people who have no other eyewitnesses. There's no photographic evidence. I'm gonna 100% sci-fi this, but the only reason why I'm agreeing with you says you're the. Never mind. I'm not gonna.
What the fuck is
Well,
happening right now?
So, in
It's the magic of
closing,
live television.
what's
guys.
the average here? Is it like a 6?
I think the average is probably like a middle bitch between everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Alright,
it's more of like a 4.
Yeah, a 4.
Yeah, come on, Tony.
4.
I meant the average of all of us.
Tony, what's your number? Are you a hard sci-fi?
I said it's a hard sci-fi. It's a 1.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Well, I felt
Right.
Don't
I
placate
mostly
me.
agree with Tony. I just felt pressured from.
Don't placate me, Nicole.
It's all right. It's all right. All right. Kari,
So, yeah, we're going to a hard 4.
Play that clip.
Oh, yeah. There's a
You
clip.
guys have video
Yeah,
footage of this?
Do.
No.
Do. I also have one too.
This week's movie recommendation comes from me, Bobby, because this is Bobby's movie recommendations. The only reason I chose this is because it was filmed in Utah, nowhere near Bear Lake, but good enough. If you've not seen Troll 2, do yourself a favor and stop watching Bobby's Cryptid Corner and go watch it right now. It's the only time I'm going to recommend you guys do that. Basically, what it is there was a successful movie, semi-successful horror movie in the 80s called Troll. Eventually an Italian director came to Utah and hired a bunch of non-actors to act in his low-budget, unofficial sequel to the original Troll. And this movie is called Troll 2. Often noted as the greatest bad movie of all time. There's an entire documentary on it that I recommend you watch as well. If you like bad acting and terrible special effects and just laughable, fun. Holy shit! You've never seen Troll 2? We got to sit down and watch Troll 2. If you like movies like that, something to have a chuckle with your friends at, and maybe throw back a few brewskis. I cannot recommend Troll 2 enough. It got a lot of like kind of internet reverence over the last decade or so, kind of along with something like The Room, but I think I prefer Troll 2 to The Room. It's a really, really fun, hilarious, terrible movie, but also a really interesting story. So watch both the movie and the documentary that's called Best Worst Movie.
Well, that's right up there with Pumpkinhead.
Pumpkinhead's a fucking objective masterpiece in every sense of the word, actually.
So I have two things. I have a movie recommendation.
Oh, where can we see that though? We need to start.
I
would like to know, where can I maybe stream that? Michael's. That's not the real.
Justwatch.com.
Justwatch.com.
No, that tells
you. You type in any movie and it tells you where it's available.
Boom.
Troll 2.
While they do that, I thought Troll 2 looked like Trolls Squared when I looked at it. And my movie recommendation is the 1999 classic Lake Placid. Because
that's cool. Nobody asked you.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that one. Hides and Lawn and Grass is dead on the money. Pumpkinhead is a fucking absolute wonderful.
Did I hear, Bree, are you older or younger than Nicole?
Younger.
You're old? No, the fuck, you're not older than her.
Nicole's 45 years old.
No, she isn't. Never mind. I don't like Nicole anymore. I'm gonna go back to Tinder. This is bullshit.
That'll make you feel better.
Don't even with me, Tony.
All right, guys. Do we have any final thoughts of the episode before we skedaddle out of here? All I have to say is don't add to the population. Don't subtract from the population. Don't end up in the hospital. Don't end up in jail. And if you end up in jail, establish dominance quickly.
Does anyone have anything to plug?
No.
Yeah, go for it. What?
I just dropped an episode of Not For Everyone podcast on 1995's Waterworld starring Kevin Costner. So if that sounds appealing to you, we're doing a whole summer of summer flopbusters, all these big budget movies that did not make any money. Yes, Bree, question.
Quick, is that the one where everyone is Arnold Schwarzenegger in that?
Yes,
no,
that's Kevin Costner. That's
Kevin Costner is Arnold Schwarzenegger. No, it's basically Mad Max on the Water with Dennis Hopper, Gene Triplehorn, the Napoleon Dynamite's girlfriend, isn't it?
Oh, wrong movie.
What is that movie? No.
That's the movie with the little girl that can breathe underwater. She has got the
no.
What's that other one that had Dennis Quaid with a dragon?
I think we're talking about Reign of Fire.
Dragonheart.
Dragonheart. That was it.
With is that the one with Sean Connery who plays the voice of the dragon?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's all I got.
One last question from the chat.
Yeah, what is that?
Jaimie.
Oh, did I get constipated from laying in bed that long? That's how I tore my anus. No, I did not. I got up and
Peter hides.
Would you tell us if you did?
Yeah, actually, I would.
So I actually have something to say.
Oh, Tony has something to say before we leave.
I actually have a you don't have to put me up front, but I have a no bullshit thing. What I'm doing right now is I'm playing a lot of horror game demos, and I'm recording my reaction, like live reactions to them.
Oh, I love it.
Not like porn horror, but like the other type of horror. The scary horror.
You doing some playthroughs?
Yeah, and I'm posting them on my Bottled Water YouTube page. I've got a couple more I'm gonna do this week and upload them.
I'm gonna go watch video games.
You can listen to my laptop's fans freak the fuck out because my RAM isn't high enough, and my fans freak out. But you can hear me scream fuck because weird shit happens while I'm playing the game.
Tony, I don't know what Twitch is because I'm almost 40 years old, but I feel like
Neither do I. I don't.
I feel like
do
we
Twitch.
could clean up on that.
We're on Twitch right now.
Yeah,
on
we're
Twitch.
lit.
We are.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, hi. I don't know who.
Hi.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
It's just
It's
a
a
bunch of people
streaming
twitching.
service where you can stream, like you can have
It's just
your
like
stream.
YouTube for gamers.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just started a new OnlyFans,
No,
and
yeah,
I
I know
don't
what
know
it is.
why nobody wants to watch me put a nail into a board. I thought it was all about hammering.
I love
Hey.
that.
Hey.
I gotta go.
Hello, I mean,
Like, Kari,
Yeah.
play us out here.
Love
Drop the
everyone.
link.
And on
Is that
that
what?
bombshell,
Is that not what
We
it's
start
about?
strong and we end
Do
strong
you
around
offer
here.
a discount on that? Because you
Okay.
know, I'm just a
Drop
the
college.
Just hit it,
Drop
Kari.
the link.
I'll give you a discount.
Fuck yeah.
bye
Yeah,
everyone.
$99.
thank
You're the
you,
best.
everybody. Thank you so much.
Okay,
Live long and
tip your
prosper.
waitress.
Love you all.
Yeah.
Bye.